Welcome to the Real Estate Mentor podcast, where we bring you the best and brightest minds of the real estate industry to help you build a successful real estate portfolio or real estate career. And women, please pay close attention because today we have something of interest for you. Today we have an extraordinary guest who has been a trailblazer in the world of real estate for over 3 decades. Her name is Ginger Faith. She is a seasoned real estate investor, broker, and builder, and currently serves as the CEO of Golden Canyon Properties. She has an impressive portfolio that includes flipping over 52 houses. 2 of those have been on HGTV, which I'd like to be on. And she has proven her expertise time and time again. She's also an Airbnb superhost and a landlady banker who made her first profitable commercial real estate investment all the way back in 1994. She is the founder of Your Wealth Network Meetup Group and the Women's Wealth Network in the San Francisco Bay Area, empowering countless individuals to achieve financial freedom through real estate. She's also been featured on Fox, CBS News, and Yahoo Finance, so a lot of credible places where she has been able to share her wealth of knowledge. So get ready to be inspired and educated as we dive into the world of real estate with the incredible Ginger. Ginger, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
And thank you, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's get started with your work in a predominantly male-dominated industry. This is the part that I said might be very interesting and apply to our female listeners out there. You entered the market with your first purchase back in 1994. And since then, I think that society has changed quite a bit, but not for everyone. And as a gay man in real estate, I certainly have my own opinions on this, but I want to hear yours. What is it like when you started as a woman in real estate investing, and how is it today?
Well, yeah, Jonathan, basically, real estate investing has been male-dominated for a number of reasons, but women have made their way in real estate sales as a dominant force. And so it's been bifurcated because, for many reasons. However, there are women who are now getting into real estate investing because we're becoming more educated, we're becoming more confident and empowered. So originally, I was the only woman I knew investing in real estate. I knew no one else. And so in some ways it felt lonely, but in other ways, I found that many men wanted to help me. And so by being curious, asking questions, being humble, and always wanting to learn, men could help you to advance because there is this dynamic of helping for whatever reason. There's a funny anecdote. I took a class on trust, putting together trust. And one of the men there asked me if I was there looking for a husband. No.
I bet he was willing to help you in the real estate career.
Actually, he was funny. And I just thought that was the weirdest thing. Like, really? No, I'm here to learn. But back in the day, it was so odd. There's even a book called The Only Woman in the Room, and it's about women in real estate investing. And I really recommend it. It's got some wonderful women in there who would be great on your podcast. One of them is a friend of mine, and there's another, actually 2 of them. And it has some great anecdotes of women who are really, really killing it in investing. But I think the willingness to learn, obviously there are issues with boundaries with, especially when I was younger, there was a lot more sexual tension in rooms when I was the only woman and there was a bunch of men, and there were always issues around that. So you need to, know who you are, what your boundaries are, what you want out of this, what your goals are. And then just be very, very clear and upfront. And there's no reason to be rude or unkind or ungracious. Sometimes women feel like in order to set proper boundaries, they need to be rude. And it's not necessary to do that. But once you get a few men who understand what the dynamic is, that they're your friend, they will help you, and then they understand the dynamic, then it's pretty simple. Then you become part of the team, So I have a number of projects.
Set proper expectations.
Yes, yeah, it can be done, but it stems from you. You've got to be the one who really knows what you want, who you are, and what your outcomes are in any situation. So now I've got my contractors are my buddies. and I laugh with them and they joke with me, and we're good friends, as well as we work together. And you're going to be working with a lot of contractors, and there's no getting around it. There are not that many female contractors still, right? It's just that is very dominated by men.
Another male-dominated industry.
Very much, yeah. And if you're going to get involved with this, you've got to have good relationships with contractors. And I've got quite a few of them that are really great friends. And really, it's about intention, and it's about your focus. And when they know that you're serious, and that you're also serious with your numbers, shop around for things. Don't be taken advantage of. In the beginning, men, well, not all men, but there's a number of men who will try to take advantage of your ignorance as far as contracting goes. And, but knowing your numbers, there's a lot of ways so you can get ideas on how to do the numbers with the different projects, the scope of work. There's a lot of ways you can figure this out. But once they know that you learn and you know what you're doing, they're much more amenable to kind of working with you with the numbers. I always say get 3 bids on any particular job, and then usually you're going to end up taking the middle one. Sometimes the ones who go too low, they're not realistic. They end up jacking the price up later, or they do shoddy work, right? But then some people are in the stratosphere with their numbers. A friend of mine, woman, was quoted $45,000 for a little tiny bathroom. And I walked in and I said, we could do this for 10.
Yeah. They must think very highly really of their work.
With really nice finishings, we can do this for 10, So it's really important to know what you can get. And the more you do, the more you know. And if you're not doing deals, tag along with somebody who's doing some deals and say, hey, how much does this bathroom cost? Eventually you'll find out who you can trust. And once you trust people, then you can get into a rhythm and work and make some really nice forward progress. Yes.
Getting your hands dirty is always the best education.
Yeah. And nicks and bruises. I've got some scars from being in construction sites.
Construction sites are dangerous. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to wear your hard hat.
Yeah.
Maybe your knee pads. So you talked about, or you mentioned kind of being the only woman in the room back then, and obviously probably a room of contractors sometimes. But from the education standpoint, I assume that you're maybe talking about meetup groups or different investing clubs. Is that what you kind of immersed yourself in the beginning to meet these other men who were your mentor and to help you?
Well, it was very, very different in the 90s than it is now. And in many ways, it was easier. In many ways, it was more difficult. There was really no REI meetups, very, very rarely. And you'd have to travel very, very far to go there. But right now, today, we're really, really lucky because you can go onto meetup.com and you can find some real estate investing meetups and you can start learning there. Of course, podcasts like this are really valuable. Go onto the podcasts and then just find anything having to do with real estate. There's Facebook groups that are specific to different types of real estate that you can dive into. Now we are definitely so knee deep into the information age that everything is available to us, which we're so lucky. I cut my teeth. I bought my first 6-unit apartment building in 1994 because of a book. That's what we used to do. We used to have books.
You had to read.
We had to read to figure this stuff out. Now we could just listen in our car, So that's how I learned from, Robert Allen writing the book, No Money Down. And that's how I started. Between that and Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power, I was off and running. And that's how that worked. But now it's quite easy. So education is there. But, I always say, and I need to make always a nod at least to being very, very careful, because Richard Branson says, the upside will take care of itself if you watch your downside. This is an area fraught with potential problems. There's scammers everywhere. There's sharks everywhere. And it's really, really important to be cautious. I think in the beginning, I had more brawn than brains. I was very young and I didn't really know what I was doing. Fortunately, I did fine because I had a great business to back me up, and it helped to fill in the cracks when the issues came up with real estate. But real estate is very expensive to deal with. You can just, money can be going out before it goes in. I would recommend that sometimes women are not encouraged to know math and numbers, but this is critical in this business. It's a thinking woman's game, a thinking man's game. And so it's important to know how to process numbers. I learned that early on. And then as a mortgage broker, I was like immersed into numbers back in 2001, which helped me as well. Just knowing all the details of how the numbers work for between interest rates and cap rates and, all of these things, learn them. And again, the information's out there, education is out there. And then if you're blessed to find a good mentor, then even better.
Yes. And AI is enhancing all of that on a daily basis as well. And, I know that in the circles that I run in, there are a lot of women that I think could probably do a lot better in real estate than men from the investing standpoint if they, were interested in that and applied themselves, because the skill set is very different. I think in a lot of areas, women have skills and traits that are very stronger than men, especially, believe it or not, I think, when it comes to emotional intelligence and things of that nature, which are all very good skill sets, especially in negotiation. So when you were the only woman in the room back in 1994, tell us about your journey that made you interested in real estate. What were you looking for? What made you think that you could take it on? Did you just have this natural courage about yourself to get in there and get started, or was it something else?
It was multifaceted. Basically, I started reading Unlimited Power and listening to Tony Robbins' cassette tape back when we had cassette tapes, and listening to Tony say, I could do you could do anything if you put your mind to it. He told the story of how Colonel Sanders knocked on 1,000 doors and got rejected before he became, famous and had KFCs. And
I know all
thought,
about
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Being in Kentucky.
There you go.
And I had Claudia Sanders' Dinner House listed for a while. That is the restaurant that he started after he exited KFC, a little bit as a competition.
God, no kidding. Well, that's cool. That's a great little anecdote. I love it. Yeah, so that was my inspiration, and that's where I got the courage and the energy to first start a business. And then when I started this business, I started getting money, and I didn't know what to do with it. Honestly, I didn't know what to do with it. And I just thought, what, real estate makes sense. And I started reading. Again, I was always a reader, always like trying to figure out what's around the next bend. And so I read a phrase from the Nothing Down by Robert Allen book. And he said, if you buy one piece of property every year for 10 years, then you'll basically retire. You can retire. You just start paying them off, and that's your retirement plan. And I thought, that's a great idea. That's what I'll do. But I thought, what? How about if I buy 1 6-family and then I get 6 all at once? Maybe it'll be faster, right? So it was just like common logic to me. So I found this old dilapidated Victorian in a great neighborhood. And this is just kind of like instinct, and I was cheap. I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So I found the worst house and then best neighborhood, but it was instinct because I was cheap. I didn't want to pay. So end up fixing it up and renting it out and making a great cash flow. And that was when I got the bug. I thought, this is really cool. That was easy. And so I pulled money out and I bought another one. Then pulled money out and bought another. And that it was just like a Monopoly game. So a little bit of Tony Robbins for the courage and a little bit of knowledge from the Robert Allen.
I love it. Yeah, it's good to have people that you can be inspired by like that. My parents were in a network marketing company all while I was growing up. And they're very big on personal development as well.
Yes.
So I heard big speakers like Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar from a very young age. And we too were listening to cassette tapes of all of these people. And they had national conferences. My parents were at the top of the company. And honestly, I attribute a lot of that to where I am today and how I present myself. I think that the more that you put into your head, it subconsciously starts to impact you. You might not be able to recall every single thing that you've heard somebody say, but it's tucked away some there and it's influencing decisions that you're making and things you're doing.
I love that. That's absolutely true. Yep. Yeah, that's very cool. I did get to meet Jim Rohn one time, and I'll tell you a funny story. Jim Rohn is amazing, and he signed my journal. He was big into journals, right? So I'm like, Jim, sign my journal. But somebody in the small crowd after the meeting was talking about Tony Robbins. And I'll tell you what Jim Rohn said about Tony Robbins in a private little group. Tony. Tony's become a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can hear Jim Rohn's voice, right? He's become a superstar. And that's just in his own way, right? He said, I told Tony, when you can walk on water, then you've really got something. And I loved that. That was just hilarious.
He might walk on water to, a lot of his fans that follow him, but
yes,
I don't think he'll be physically doing it anytime soon.
I think that was just such a great Jim Rohn way to, just kind of balance out the whole thing. He acknowledged him as well as put everything onto a level playing field, which was so classic and beautiful.
Well, I think that was a really good talk about women in real estate, a really good perspective, and hopefully it's encouraged some people who might be afraid to scale, might be afraid to enter, that, there's nothing to it but to do it. Just get the education, find a mentor, find your plan, and start executing that plan.
Yeah. And trust the unknown. Trust the unknown. Have faith in yourself and trust the unknown.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into that, I think, a little bit more on the third topic that we have here to discuss. But I want to move on to passive income and, why you might think that that's a myth. Passive income is definitely what everybody aspires to achieve in real estate. A lot of times in commercial real estate, they call it mailbox money. You just sit back and checks magically appear in your mailbox for doing nothing. Obviously, if you manage your own real estate, you know that passive income likely does not exist in that environment. But you teach that passive income is a myth, but that there is something better. So what is your relationship with passive income and what could possibly be better than that?
Yes. So it goes back to my original story of the 6-family Victorian that I bought in 1994. I was looking through those magazines where they sold real estate back before Zillow, before the internet.
Magazines.
I was looking at those.
Wow.
They had these magazines and it would show the house and where it was located. And so you pick them up in the corner grocery store, and I was looking at a magazine and I saw a house, and I called the realtor and I said, I'm looking for some investment property. And he said, oh, you know what? My friend just bought a triplex and all he does is collect rents and bought a Jaguar with his rents. And I thought, I can do that.
Yeah.
So sign me up, right? This is literally how I got involved with real estate. Was this guy
Temptation of a Jaguar?
Yeah, I know. I said never bought that damn Jaguar, but I thought, this is great. How come nobody ever told me about this, right? So I bought the 6-family. I figured I could buy 2 Jaguars with the 6-family, right? And so, got the 6-family, and no Jaguar appeared. I did get passive income. I could have bought the Jaguar, but it wasn't the point. But it really wasn't passive. I painted the thing. There were repairs. The heating system didn't really work very well in the beginning, and there was a lot of work that needed to be done. But I had the business, and I would just make the money, and then the rents came in really quickly, and we did well, even though the interest rate was like 15.5%.
Oh,
I still did
well. You mean it was higher than 7?
Yeah, 15.5 with 2 points, and I thought I got a great deal, right?
With 2-point buy down. Wow.
2-point buy down.
So it's actually at 17. Wow.
Yeah, and I thought I had a good deal. So that was my foray into the concept of passive income. And since then, anytime I've owned rental property, there's never really truly been passive income. And if you have a manager, you have to manage the manager. I had a terrible story of a client a couple of years ago at a beautiful property here in the Silicon Valley, 2 acres, which was it's like a gold mine. She moved upstate to Washington and rented it out. I didn't talk to her about it. She just, I talked to her about it, but she hired a management company to manage it. And they moved in a bunch of people, a lot of people who paid the rent, but they were construction workers. And what they did was they started dumping massive amounts of concrete into her horse pasture. And so when she called me, she kind of wasn't thinking about it because she had her new life and she was just collecting her rent check and she was okay with it, even though her neighbors were warning her. And then the city was citing her. And so all sorts of terrible things happened from that. She called me in a panic. Yes, Yes, they were dust dumping. So they were saving dumping fees, and they were dumping in her backyard, in her horse
The
pasture.
audacity.
This was a horse farm. And so she called me, and I saw these up through the grass, I saw these big pieces of concrete that were just dumped there. And it cost tens of thousands of dollars to remove it.
Guaranteed.
And so I was commissioned to remove it, to renovate the house. And that's one of the houses that ended up on HGTV.
Oh,
which that was the upside. But to see the distress, can you imagine hiring a property manager thinking, and then the neighbors were complaining, and she was complaining to the property manager. The property manager took no responsibility. I looked them up online, and they had a beautiful, glistening website. You'd think that they were wonderful. And they were not anything but wonderful. They didn't take responsibility. They said on their website that they guarantee, and they didn't. She was the one who foot the bill for tens of thousands of dollars of damage to her property. And so you have to manage the manager. If she was thinking she was getting passive income, that check every month, but what ended up happening, right? So, my friend likes to say that as soon as you think that your property is going to be passive, you're going to go bankrupt. So
true.
anybody who has real experience in real estate, the properties, they need tending to. They're breaking down. People are damaging them. You have humans and you have material objects, and they don't work always well together, right? So they have to be managed.
I have rental properties, and I do all my own management.
Yeah.
Little trust in that space.
You understand? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but you can trust yourself, but it's not passive. So
what is better than passive? Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
What's better than passive is active in the beginning, but then it is passive. And basically it's private money lending. And the reason why it's better is because the banks have been doing this for like centuries. However, what one skill have banks mastered? Well, probably many, but just say one: underwriting. When you go to the bank and get a loan, when I go to the bank and get a loan, they do not trust you, and they want everything. What? They want your tax returns. They want your social security card. They want your driver's license. They want your bank statements. They're calling your employer 2 or 3 times the day before closing. Are they still
Hair
employed?
Sample, pee in a cup.
Yeah, exactly. Blood type, firstborn child, and fingerprint of your firstborn child, just in case, right?
Yes.
So they don't trust you. But what happens once you're underwritten and the property is underwritten? Okay, and that's a whole other thing, appraisal and inspection, all that. And once that's done, they collect checks for 30 years, right? And there's a lot of opportunity if people have money sitting on the sidelines. They're getting, maybe if you're lucky and you get a CD, you're 4.5%, 5% right now, because rates are high for now.
Just got a postcard yesterday.
Okay, right.
About a 5% CD.
Okay, there you go, 5%. So this is an anomaly, to have 5%. It hasn't been that way for a while. But regardless, when you're getting the passive income, that's better than that. That's the passive income you want, not necessarily from a bank. What I endorse, because I'm in real estate, I would rather get my money from a property that I can do forced appreciation. And I have investors who've done extremely well with me. We had one property that we bought for $2 million. We completely razed it to the ground. Okay. Except for one wall. And it was like 1,200 square feet. We demoed it, and we erected a 3,500 square foot home in a really phenomenal neighborhood. And we bought it for $2 million, put in 1.25, and we sold it for 4.8.
Wow.
And then, so all of the investors got a really attractive return on investment. So, and I did as well.
That was a big risk too.
Calculated risk, right? This was
buying a $2 million tearing down building and, wanting that return on the investment. Oh yeah.
Where it was located.
California?
It was not only California. This was really, really close to Facebook, Google. It was in a really in that direction. Yeah. So it could be Palo Alto, Saratoga, San Carlos, Atherton. Hillsborough, those areas are really, really rich, and they're landlocked. They got the sea on one side, and you got, right. So those are areas, but areas, that's a way, for example, or if you buy a commercial property that's in distress, which I'm looking at several right now and working with investors. But because I always tell people, because there are a lot of scammers out there, you have to know how to underwrite. And if you don't know how to underwrite, maybe somebody close to you can show you how to underwrite, somebody that you trust. So when we wrote that deal, we knew that location. We talked to the best realtors in the area. We knew what the scope of work was going to be. We have contractors that they work really hard and they're very smart and they know what they're doing. And so, our numbers, we were right after COVID when there was an upswing in the prices of goods. So that made us a little nervous for a while, but we knew that was what was also happening is the prices of the real estate were going up more than commensurately, So it ended up working out for us really well. And now there's a lot of opportunity because of the fluctuation in interest rates. There's a lot of opportunity in commercial. And so that's where I'm diverting my focus into some commercial assets where we can do the same type of thing, forced appreciation, still have our eye on luxury building over on the peninsula because there is opportunity, but it's becoming tighter and tighter on that. So to encapsulate, if you think that buying, hard assets by themselves is going to be passive, it's not. But being a limited partner and being learning underwriting and being a passive money lender, that is infinitely better. That's pretty much the top of the totem pole. And that's why the banks have been doing it. That's why the banks don't want to own property. They're smart. Oh, yeah. That's why they're so rich, right? So why didn't we figure this out earlier? We're just wanting to work. We're worker bees, but they're the thinkers, and that's why they're so rich. So if we can convert our thinking over to that, we'll do better. Of course, if you love working, you love working, and that's another conversation altogether.
And I love working. I love what I do. It's so ingrained into my life. It's kind of hard to separate, work, personal life. I'm always talking about real estate, always doing deals. It's it's not even about the money. The money is great, but I just absolutely love what I do. And so to find something like that, I don't think that it's true that if you find something you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life, because a lot of my days feel a lot like work. But I still love it.
Yeah, I think that
was one of those.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
Before we move on to the next topic, I just want to ask, what type of commercial assets are you looking at? Obviously not office.
I'm personally, well, you know what? I have some friends who are doing really well with office. You just have to get at the right price and the right location. And suburbia office is doing fine. It's downtown central, that, like the big cities.
Central business districts.
Right. Yeah. Those are having the big issue. Suburbia, we can't find office space around here to lease. It's very tight. So, and so everything is hyper local. Exactly. Everything is hyper local. Right now, I'm looking for neighborhood shopping centers. My intention is to get one by the end of the year. I'm being introduced to a couple of industrial properties and some land that needs to be developed, that I'm working with some in like really high growth areas in really good locations. So those are the things that I'm focusing on right now.
I love it. So, not scared of anything.
Just got to know the numbers. You got to underwrite, right? If you underwrite, and the other thing is I have a Jedi council. I have a number of people I'll go to and I'll say, hey, look at these numbers. What do you think? What do you think? Right? Because you can't be an island with this, especially not with commercial. You make a mistake, you're going to be messed up for a while. So where I talk about compressing time and retiring in 5 years, you could reverse that. It could ruin your life for the next 10 years if you do it wrong. So you really, and the bigger the numbers, the bigger the numbers, the bigger the burial. So you really have to be careful what you're doing.
Well, moving on to our last topic, this is very interesting because it talks about, we're going to talk about your natural talents and gifts and how to use those and apply them to real estate and growing your business. And this is an exciting topic for me because I believe very strongly in the power of energy. We're all just atom particles that are emitting energy. I mean, there's no doubt about that, down at our core. And science has shown that the power of energy in attracting things to us, both good and bad. Good energy usually attracts better things to you. That bad negative energy that you put out usually has a lot of negative that comes with it. And so I'm just starting to explore some things like human design, which I think is fascinating. And that really helps you kind of hone in on what your body and your mind are designed to do and put that energy to use for good. And when you're in alignment, you can do more with less. And it really, really helps to propel you forward. So there's no doubt that we all have these natural gifts and talents that others might not. So let's start with you. What are your natural gifts? How did you figure out what they were? How did you put them to work for you? And can you give us an example?
My natural gifts and talents, actually, I took some classes like the Strong's analysis. And they said that working with people, not alone. I'm better off working with people than alone. I love people, sales, broadcasting, art, design. Those are some of the natural orientations that I have. How I figured it out, I figured it out by taking several tests, but the tests only mirror back to you what you already know or don't know and what you're looking for. So I figured it out by doing a lot of things that I sucked at. And I said, well, I didn't like it. And so, but then you always think, okay, do I not like it because I don't know it, because I need to learn this? Or do I not like it because it's not part of my personality? And we have to kind of figure that out. So it's part of the journey. It's part of the adventure of being human and being alive, right? Some people know right off the gate. My contractors, one of my dearest friends, Mike, is a contractor. He's been a contractor for 40 years. And it's the funniest thing. When I call him on the phone and he's in a good mood, I hear skill saws in the background or hammers. And I call him and I'm like, hey, how you doing, Mike? He's like, all right. I'm like, what are you doing? Paperwork, right?
Yeah.
So all good contractors hate paperwork. They love hammers,
not his natural
right?
talent. Yeah.
No, he hates it. He's like, well, what are you doing in paperwork? Get somebody for that, And so we banter back and forth. So he's known, since he was a kid, he jokes and said when his dad was a contractor, he was over there banging nails, and he would say, hey kid, pick up the nails and make them straight. And he was like 8 years old banging nails, right? So to him, it's a passion for him. And it's natural for him. So others of us, we just need to figure it out. If we're lucky, we have good schools and we have good extracurricular activities where we can kind of figure it out when we're younger. If we don't have access to that and we're figuring it out later, start now. Just try different things and then develop your skills to the extent that you can. Now, I have got pictures of me in the 90s flipping houses, and I'm in my tool time belt and I'm in my hiking boots. And I was like with the guys trying to figure stuff out, right? But it wasn't my natural gift. But I like to try it because it was kind of like, oh, why not? Let's see what happens. But over time, and my friend Mike loves it when I'm on the job site because he likes to boss me around and tease me and we play. But, really, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I got to get back to what I'm good at. Right. Let me go back to work and mine. But it's good to tap into that. So you asked a number of questions. What are my gifts? How did I find out? Just by experimenting. I was really great with people as a broker, mortgage broker, real estate broker. I was always really good with people. I have empathy. I love people. I remember what they need, what they want. That's easy for me. So that's something. My Airbnbs, one of the reasons why I'm a superhost is because I can feel what people want. When I get feedback, I pay attention to it. And I always hone things. And so it was bumpy road for the first year and a half with my first Airbnb. But once I figured it out, what people wanted, I could do a beautiful job of setting up systems so that people got what they want consistently. If I get a 4-star review, I'm like, what happened?
Oh yeah. You see that review, you're like, you could have mentioned this. I could have fixed it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So there's where my design idea, that whole thing, and then people come in. So it kind of evolves with what lights you up, right?
You've been on HGTV twice, so I'm sure you have a great design aesthetic, or you wouldn't have been featured.
Yeah, I do. And it evolved. It evolved. I know designers who are better than me, but basically it's that they focus their whole life on that. right? Where it's not my whole life. But I do love it. It lights me up, and it gets me very excited, to be able to pull something together and just see it evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bring
the
it to life.
colors, textures, feel. Yeah.
There are a lot
Space.
of people who flip houses out there that I'm sure you could benefit. We joke about the flipper gray, gray floors,
Oh,
gray
yes.
walls, gray cabinets. I mean, we
Yes.
walk through there and, a lot of the work is shoddy too. I mean, I
Yes.
don't know how people bring these properties to market, but
Yes.
and they're like, well, the price point is low and cost of labor is high. And I'm thinking, these aren't major changes that I'm telling you to make or suggesting. I mean, these are baseline things that should be done while the work is being done. It's oversight.
Yes.
It's negligence.
Yes. I agree with you.
Attention to detail is so important.
Oh yeah. I get crazy when I see bad flips. I literally get crazy. I'm like, what is this?
Could you not have sanded the walls first? I mean,
right.
just little things.
I know. Right. Yeah. And then the color match. You're right.
No personality.
Yeah. Right. And I've joked with my female friends, like, it looks like a guy did this, but not that all guy have bad sense. It's a mix, but sometimes these guys are like, what are you thinking? So yeah, you're right.
So the women who you coach and the men, I'm sure there's been men along the way as well. How do you tell them to go out but besides doing, is there anything else that people can do to really kind of understand what natural talents they have that would be beneficial to real estate? I assume that there are probably some people who want to get involved that, don't want to do any of the work. So I guess those people should be very administratively focused. They should be good at organizing, delegating, finding good deals, things like that, so they can, keep their hands clean and all of that. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, Jonathan, that's a great question, because real estate is such a huge field. You could do anything there's so many things that you can do and be successful in real estate. Some people are systems thinkers. If you're a systems thinker, you will really dominate in real estate, because you can organize people, you can organize systems to create wealth on a larger scale. People in my close network are so beyond me in their systems thinking that, and they're able to, run a big team and big construction projects, multiple, because they think systems, but they're never hands-on at all. They're never in the nitty-gritty, but they're macro thinkers. If you're a macro thinker, there's so much opportunity for you. How to find out? I would say that, the tests and doing things, figuring out what lights you up, what your orientation is. If you already have an idea, start writing some ideas down, what lights you up. And then if you have no idea, there are the Myers-Briggs, there's the personality pages, there's the Strong's aptitude tests. There's Ray Dalio's got a new test. I imagine it's amazing, because he is about your, natural aptitudes. So go online and start, taking multiple tests. And then you're going to see a confluence of information that you can pull from. And then you can find out. And then there's an adjunct to the Strongs, that there's another aptitude test that tells you, and I did this, but I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's an adjunct to the Strongs that basically says people with your skill set tend to love these jobs. And if there are, and that's where the design came in and broadcasting came in for me. And then to find some real estate in a real estate field with one of those skills is not hard at all, because the field is so huge. There's so much opportunity.
I took one of those tests in high school that was supposed to tell us what we might be good at when we grow up. And I think they graded it wrong, because I think that they told me I should be a janitor.
What?
A janitor.
What?
Yeah. Look at me now.
That's crazy. I can't imagine. That's
something's wrong with that test.
Yeah. That's odd. Wow. Okay. No, that's a good thing to dismiss real quick.
Yes.
Yeah. Unless your orientation is you're passionate about clean, no.
Okay. No, we owned a short-term rental management company. We had 15 cleaners, and the last thing I wanted to do was go out there and clean it myself.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I know that you have construction going on at your house. We can hear the hammers going. So we're going to let you get back to that.
My goodness.
Just a little bit. It's the vibration.
Oh,
But I'm
wow.
sure you have another design project underway there at your own house now. But thank you so much, Ginger, for joining us on the podcast today. We really appreciate you being here. Everybody out there, I hope that you learned something valuable that you can take away and start applying to your real estate investing business today. No matter what stage you're at, there's always learning that needs to be done to help you become better at your systems, at underwriting. Those are some things that we learned today, both very, very important. And Ginger, if people want to connect with you, can you tell them where they can find you?
The easiest way to connect with me, my name is Ginger Crystal Faith, which is a memorable name. I'm all over social media. I've got a few websites. One of them is womenswealthnetwork.net. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere. Ginger Crystal Faith. Just connect with me and we can chat.
And on YouTube.
And on YouTube, right, exactly. I've got a little over 100 videos.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to the Real Estate Mentor podcast. We're going to be back in just a couple of weeks with another exciting guest, just like Ginger, to bring you a lot more guidance on your real estate investing career and how to take it to the next level. Have a great day.